Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for this week's edition of Inside the Zone. Blake Sebring, as always, joining us on a lovely, gorgeous Monday afternoon.
Oh, man, yesterday was perfect.
It was. And not exactly the perfect week for the Comets, but they do play 3 road games and do come back with 3 points. I think a lot of teams would be happy with that.
Everybody but them.
Everybody but the Comets and
or their fans.
Toledo or Colorado. But when you take a look at this past week, what's your overall takeaway, considering, when we talked a few weeks ago, this was kind of the tail end of what was a tough 10-game stretch.
8 and 10 on the road, 8 different cities. I mean, come on. And then they lost a bunch of guys to call-ups, and then they've still got a bunch of injuries. They had 7 rookies in the lineup Saturday night. There's like 3 or 4 guys who I don't know that they'd ever practiced with the team. And okay, here you go, you're going to play. Mm-hmm. You gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. I mean, they were never going to catch Toledo. I think with 20 games left, the Comets had 13 games against playoff teams, and Toledo had like 6 or 7. I mean, it just wasn't, it's not realistic. Not with this kind of schedule.
Well, when you take a look at the way that the standings are now in the Central Division, Toledo in first place with 66 games played. They got 97 points. The Comets are 9 points behind, but with 3 games in hand.
They could end up with 100 points, and there's going to be some fan out there that disappointed because they didn't catch Toledo.
Yeah,
how crazy is that?
That could very well happen. And then you got Cincinnati back there, 62 games played, 72 points, and Kalamazoo, 62 games played, 66 points. It would take a pretty impressive effort for Kalamazoo to leapfrog Cincinnati. So it looks like,
and I think Kansas City could still take over
that 4th spot.
They could.
So it looks like if the playoffs started today, Comets, Cincinnati in the first round, Comets with home ice advantage. What would excite you about that? What makes you think that the Comets can take care of the Cyclones?
Well, Cincinnati's big goaltender, Anthony Peters, isn't going to be there. And he's the one who gave them so much trouble early in the season. And since he's been called up to the Wilkes-Barre, the Comets have really done well against the Cyclones.
Any chance that he'd be back?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any chance he's coming back.
That would change the entire.
He signed for this year and next year.
That changes the entire makeup of that series, of that team.
It becomes the Comets' depth against Cincinnati's big, great first line. And Danforth and Schultz, and you got to try to slow them down.
Well, depth is something the Comets have had this season and are continuing to develop. Because it was in one of your articles where you mentioned how many guys they have had on the roster so far this month. Yeah,
I jinxed it, and I know Gary's going to get me for this one too, because about a month ago I posted a note about how they'd only used like 31 or 32 players, which is the fewest they'd had in years, and now they've used 29 over the last month, which is just insane. Like I said, they were guys showing up at the game Saturday night and just like, okay, now you're going to play. This is your partner. It's nice to meet you.
Hello, Russell Jordan. Play goal on Friday night, and
Kevin McKernan,
Marcos Massara.
It's just kind of crazy. Even Mags came back and he gets thrown right in, and here, we need you to play 30 minutes tonight, because everybody else needs a breath. It's just crazy. I brought along the roster today just to make sure I knew who was who.
That is very indicative of what we've seen over the last month. But that leads me to the next question: is who is getting healthy? Who are some of the guys that we're going to see back? Because the guys that they are getting back are players that we assume are playoff roster type guys.
Yeah, Gabriel Desjardins is back from Laval. They're going to find out tonight or tomorrow about Garrett Thompson, and he's going to be back. Ryan Culkin had to have surgery on his hand today, but they still think he's going to be ready for playoffs. Cody Soul, they hope to play a week from Wednesday, which is way ahead of schedule. That's good. Jamie Shasma, they hope he's going to be able to skate this week, and he hasn't skated in a while, so that's going to take a while too. But they don't know. We're going to wait and see. They got a couple guys out with concussions, McDonald and Artie, and the new goalie, Cam Lanigan, is getting his knee checked. It's just, these are the normal things that happen after a long road trip where you play 8 out of 10 on the road. Don't freak out. There's 3 weeks left to heal and get things figured out. And it's like, at this point, you don't even know who's playing with who, forward lines or defensive pairings, except for Shea and Leonard. or Lowney and Binkley, but they've even gotten to split up a little bit just because it's been so crazy, so nuts out there.
One of the guys I wanted to ask you about was Lanigan, because I thought he played pretty well when he was in there in goal. What have you seen?
He's athletic. He's a little bit acrobatic. He's pretty quick. I know Shane likes him. I mean, he's all over him. He just thinks the guy is spectacular. You know, it's kind of rough right now because you don't want to have 3 goalies right now. I mean, you don't want to have a goaltending duel right now, but that's kind of what they got. And it's just all circumstances, and they're going to have to figure it out. I mean, you got 9 games left to figure it out.
How do they go about figuring that? Because you're talking about Hauser and Bartis, essentially, and obviously, you know, Lanigan has played well, but
I think you got to figure out
physically.
And this is, I haven't talked to Gary about this, but this is a total, what I would do if I was coaching, and thank God I'm not, is I would, if you want Hauser to play the first round, if you want him to be your starter going into the playoffs, then I play him 7 out of 9 games. You know, I mean, I get him
his
going.
Groove back.
I get him hot. I get him used to the workload because he hasn't played. He played 9 minutes in Tucson. Whip-de-doo. You know, I mean, that was nothing. I mean, maybe it's a good thing that he had some practice time with the goalie coach. That's kind of cool. But I would play him 7 out of 9. I mean, I would play him Wednesday, Friday, or Wednesday, Saturday every week, and go from there.
Well, let's talk about this week, because we got a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday at home against Kalamazoo, who the Comets have not fared well against this year. Matter of fact, I believe they're 1-4 against Kalamazoo this season.
You remember what happened last game after Kalamazoo? That was the game where I really lit into the forwards about not coming back. Yeah,
I imagine that they will remember that as well.
I'm sure.
Friday's at Indy. They've owned Indy this season. They've owned Indy all the time.
But you know what? Marcoux a great goalie. I mean, he can steal a game for them, too. You got to be ready for that.
Yeah, and Saturday, Wichita comes here. So when you look at those 3 games, what are you most looking forward to? What is something, other than seeing some of these healthy guys get back in rotation and get their game legs under them, what are you looking forward to?
I want to see this week as a reset. You know, I want to see them use this week to try to, okay, forget about that last week. And, you know, the road trip's over. We get to sleep in our own beds every night. Let's just buckle down and get things back to normal. They've got plenty of talent. They've gotten to see these kids, but it's time to start ramping up for the playoffs and get Hauser hot if that's what they decide. You know, I mean, get Mags back in the swing of playing with a regular partner. Get Shaftsma going again, because he's important. I mean, he's just so important for the leadership and stuff. And maybe I don't know, maybe you think about sitting a Sid or a Bobby Shea a game or 2 just to get their legs going again. I mean, knowing those 2, they won't want to do that. But I mean, now is the time you could do that if you wanted. You know, the cool thing is, all these injuries and all these call-ups where guys didn't go up and play much, and you know, you've got a ton of guys who've sat recently because of injuries. They should be pretty fresh going into the playoffs. They aren't, you know, they don't have to bust it all the way to the end, because it's not going to make any difference in their positioning or anything.
Right.
I mean, they can really, really work on specific things that they want to get right for the playoffs.
So in your eyes, this is kind of, now that, what was it, 8 of the last 10 have been on the road?
Yeah.
This, starting from this week on, this is really playoff prep time.
Sure. I mean, you couldn't the last week because you didn't know who was playing when, you know. Now it's get healthy, first of all, and then, you know, work on the playoff prep. And, you know, win the games maybe third. I mean, really, because it doesn't make any difference in their positioning at all. It's more important. That's why it's so frustrating. ECHL regular season has almost nothing to do with postseason, ever. It's just setting up opportunities. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that you're going to, even if you win 9 in a row, that doesn't mean anything in the playoffs, because you don't know what the other team's going to get sent down from their roster, or what you're going to get or anything. It's just positioning. That's all it is.
We talk about this a lot. What do you want to see right out of the gate on Wednesday? What do you want to see in that first period, in that first game of this week?
Yes, sir. That's a good one. I want to see them not try to win the game 6-5. I want to see them try to win 3-2, because you are not beating Kalamazoo too often 6-5. That's just not going to happen. And I want to see the same thing when they play Cincinnati, because every time they play Cincinnati, they start off like they're going to win this game 7-2. No, it's going to be a 3-2 game. That's just the way it is. It's like we talked about last week. When you're in the same division or conference with a team you play a lot, there's no secrets. You know, you're not intimidated by the high-flying offense or whatever. They're going to make them earn that game, and you got to be willing to earn that win.
Is there anything we talked about how from now till the playoffs, it's kind of playoff prep. Is there anything you start doing to prepare specifically? I don't want to overlook whoever they're going to play in the first round, but it seems like you got to get past Toledo. Is there anything specifically they're going to do over the next 3 weeks that is specifically preparing them for what Toledo presents?
Let's look at it this way. Here's how Gary would answer that question. Honestly, believes it genuinely understands that is. If the Komets are playing well, it doesn't really matter who they're playing. You know, I mean, if they get on a roll and they get everybody comfortable and you get the offense going along with the defense, it isn't going to matter who they're playing in the first round. And it really doesn't matter that much, I don't think, in the second round. Really? This team has already won a couple times, 3 times maybe, in Toledo this year. They're not intimidated like past Komets teams have been going to Toledo. I don't see that as a factor. I don't get that sense of it in the locker room.
Well, and you have to love that. You have to love that confidence from this team, and that's one of the things we've seen all season long.
And there is that chemistry that we've talked about, which is so much better than it's been the last few years, too. I mean, it's always been good. This is great chemistry.
All right. Just like me and you.
Well, there you go.
There you go. That's a great segue to watch next week right here on
that's
Inside
smooth.
the Zone. That's professional journalism.
You should go ask for a raise.
That's why I still pay on those college loans.
No wonder Emily fell for you. You know, I mean, she didn't have a choice, did she? It was over.
It was a bat of the eyes and a quick wit. And
her bat of the eyes, maybe. Yeah.
That's a lot better than mine. We'll see you next Monday right here on Inside the Zone. Thanks for watching.